Hello and welcome to this Care Leaders Network panel discussion. We're here today to talk about technology and recruitment and to discuss what does the future look like. We are recording this conversation in partnership with Josh from Healthcare 92 and have the pleasure of welcoming two of our Care Leaders Network members, Alpesh Patel and Michael Butcher. So Josh, just as a quick starter, please can you introduce yourself and Healthcare 92 and then Alpesh and Michael, I'll get you to introduce yourselves afterwards.
Yeah, great. So as Sam said, my name's Joshua Lucy. I'm the director of a company called Social 92, but otherwise known as Healthcare 92 within this sector. We've been going now for about 7 to 8 years. I started off as a consultant within the space, working with a few established brands within the UK. And then a few years later, about 4 or 5 years ago then, we decided to create the agency to what it is today. And to this day, we work with over 200 healthcare companies in the UK, but we worked with over 500-600 within that period, and we're looking to expand into the US. So that kind of explains who we are.
Brilliant, exciting times. And then Alpesh and Michael, can you give yourselves a bit of an introduction as well?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Alpesh Patel. I'm the director of Kirkland's Care Limited. We are a small operator of 5 care homes across East Midlands, Stoke and northwestern Cumbria. My journey started in September 2018, so I'm sort of 4 years into a journey, so relatively young and new into the sector, and really trying to sort of aggressively grow, but also use technology in some way to make life easier for staff, residents, and the likes as well. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Alpesh. And Michael, a quick intro, please.
Hi, so I'm Michael. I'm the finance director of Blackadder. We are a family-run care home group. We've got 6 care homes. We started in 1997, so this is our 25th year. There are grey hairs all round, although I joined the family firm in 2017. My role is multifaceted, so I do everything from finance, IT, data, comms, all the way through into HR and health and safety. So largely responsible for all the processes behind recruitment, but obviously supporting the operational team to achieve that. That's me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So Michael, I'm going to start with you. I guess just to set us up for the conversation, what does the recruitment landscape look like as you see it?
Fascinatingly, if you'd asked me that 6 months ago, I would have had a very different answer. I don't want to sound contrarian, although we are contrarian in our business, but we think that actually recessions are good for social care and recruitment. You tend to shake out some of the retail and hospitality roles. Those people come into social care. So we're actually seeing at the moment that recruitment for care assistants and the more entry-level roles that we have it's never easy, it's never perfect, but we are getting quite a lot of applicants. So we see that as a good thing. But every role is a challenge to recruit and hire great people for it. It's not to say that we aren't getting great applicants. It's just that social care has its own demands. We run 6 care homes that are all pivoting or already in a very complex dementia space for elderly residents. So that role comes with challenges. You are going to be on your feet for a long period of time. You're going to be dealing with residents who can be physically and verbally aggressive. You are going to have a lot of emotional burdens. It's not a role that everyone can do. And I'm in awe of the people who can do it, because God knows I'm not one of those people who can do it. I've done care shifts and I'm not very effective. So for the people who can stick it out for over a year, the people who we want to be recruiting and retaining, that people are going to be with us for a long period of time. It's amazing that they can do it. It's just a challenge to recruit them in the first place, to find them, and then the second challenge is retention. And I do see these in a similar vein, but the challenges with sort of that post 3 months recruitment is, okay, you've got a job, but what's the pay? What are the hours? What are the emotional and physical challenges you're going to be facing? And it's difficult to retain people post 3 months recruitment if that's not working perfectly. So in a nutshell, obviously, it's not easy. I think right about now, it's probably as easy as it has been in the last 5 years, perversely, despite everything that's gone before. But yeah, there are challenges, and there are challenges in recruiting for every role. But then again, how many people have to recruit someone who is a carer, is a domestic carer, someone who works as a chef, a deputy, a manager, maintenance. The multifaceted recruitment of social care is so complex that actually every single role is its own challenge to recruit, particularly like us, where you work across multiple geographies.
Of course, no, I can imagine. And Alpesh, I'm guessing some similar experiences in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. It really is. Not to say that there aren't applicants out there. There are. That, you know, people are applying for the roles, but not necessarily with the greatest intentions as well. I must add, that probably come to later on in this discussion. But yeah, there are applicants out there, but it's generally a difficult sort of minefield to navigate through at the moment. Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah. So what would you say the realities of social care recruitment are, and kind of how are they playing out in your business at the moment?
Yeah. So I guess for me, or for our business at the moment, it's something that Michael touched on actually. Our 5 homes are spread over 3 geographical areas, so, and not everyone is the same. Not each area sort of recruits or attracts the same sort of caliber of candidates. Particularly our homes in the northwest, far northwest, up in Cumbria. It's a lot more sparse around there, and it's sort of a lower population, so to speak. So it's difficult. People won't necessarily relocate to that sort of area either. Not when they're looking for work. They might do it at retirement age, for example, but not at this point in their life. So it is a challenge. But I think ultimately it comes down to sort of a number of, well, 2 or 3 points really. Pay in the industry. Just probably the number one point really. And then there is other things like sort of going into it. So let's say, for example, you attracted a candidate, you offered them a job, so they were the right fit for you and they accepted as well. Then there's the whole situation with trying to get a DBS and those sorts of things that puts you on a back burner as well. So yeah, there's a number of hurdles that you have to go through, which collectively makes it such a challenge for us in our industry in particular.
And I guess none of it's particularly straightforward, isn't it? Every
No.
step comes with its own individual challenges, of course, which certainly adds to, I guess, the level of complexity as well. So, Josh, talk to me about, obviously you work with an awful lot of health and social care organizations in doing what you do. What are you seeing in regards to how frontline recruitment is evolving over time?
I think touching on what 2 chaps have said, it's right now what's really important for the businesses to understand is how you getting people to buy into the culture of your company. You know, the retention aspect of it. I think the way I see things shifting is that, especially in this space, in this sector, is that, you know, I was just speaking to a client this morning that, you know, we're paying £1.15 more than every competitor in our local area. And I think it's, for me, in my experience in the sector, is that the carers, for example, I'll state using carers as an example, they're not, I guess they're not really looking at pay rates aspect. They're looking at where do they feel comfortable, where do they feel safe, where do they feel taken care of, where do they feel rewarded, and do they see a future there with this company? Because as people will say in this sector, that you get a lot of carers that shift from one care home to another, to one domiciliary agency to another, and all they're trying to do is find where they feel, I guess, rewarded and taken care of. It's ironic really when they're taking care of people, but that's what they're looking for, is to be taken care of. So I feel like the way it's shifting is, you know, we're trying to work with clients on the fact that they need to do more to retain their carers and reward them for, you know, for being there over a certain period of time, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, a year, like a loyalty scheme in many ways, and showing, you know, from when that first individual joined that company to where they are today, and sharing that story. And I think that's what, from a carer's perspective, they want to feel part of something bigger, you know, rather than, you know, yes, they are looking after people in their local community, but I think that needs to be shouted about more. I think we need to be talking about their stories of why they do it, and what it means to them and what it means to their local community that they're doing that. And I think that's where it's kind of shifting now. Is I think customers and clients of ours are certainly starting to look more into how they retain their carers, because anyone could stick an advert out on social media, on a job board, and they all say the same thing, really. And you can say that you offer different rewards, but I think you need to tell more of your story about what it's like to work in this care home, what it's like to work in this domiciliary area. And I think that's where the mindset needs to shift now, and almost focus more on marketing your business rather than trying to sell a position to someone. So for me, yeah, I think our clients especially is getting them to focus more on what it means to the carer to work for your business. So
the big shift that you're seeing is around, rather than just saying, okay, so we've got a job, here's an advert. I guess that's a kind of a component of the process, if you like, but it's helping the prospective candidate market, if you like, to understand the culture and why it's a fulfilling proposition to work at XYZ care organization. Is that am I getting that right from what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about it briefly before, is that COVID, it's recession proof, it's COVID proof, but we would, in this sector, they were taking people away from retail and hospitality because there was anywhere else to work. But so that was great for the care sector at the time. However, now what we need to be doing is we need to be educating people on what they get out of their job, what's the rewards for taking care of someone, what that means to people as well, because there's nothing more rewarding than taking care of someone, helping someone, than working in retail and hospitality where you're picking up after people, and it doesn't have really a sense of reward. Readjusting clothes on a rail to picking up plates off a table that have been finished. It's this in the care sector, you're looking after people, and I think telling that story is so crucial right now, because if you stick an advert out saying, oh, come work in the care sector or work for this care home, you get paid X amount and these are the requirements and these are the benefits, it's not enough, because they will go for the easier option, which is retail and hospitality, because they kind of know what to expect. So I think right now is our clients specifically is we're educating them on, you need to tell a story. What does this actually mean to people to work in this sector? So that's where I believe it shifted to, whereas before, you stick an advert out and you'll get 100 applicants. Now there's 100 applicants, you'll probably hire 2 or 3, but now we need to educate these people. What does it actually mean to work in this space, and what does that look like as well? Because we all know that working in the care sector, people assume it's wiping bums, but it's not. It's a lot more than that. You're taking care of people's lives, and there's so many rewarding situations that you get from it. So I think that's a big thing for me.
Got you. Thank you. Michael Alpesh, I'll be interested to hear your view on what Josh has shared, and I guess share some experiences around whether you see that as being kind of one of the key evolutions, and kind of how that's playing out in your own respective organizations.
Definitely. And I think that Josh and I have both been reading the same book by Owen Eastwood. If anyone else hasn't found it, Belonging by Owen Eastwood is an amazing book about exactly what Josh has been talking about. Owen is actually a sports coach, which is where my interest in it came from. But he speaks a lot about work that he's done with sports teams, for example, the New Zealand All Blacks, about their story, their sense of belonging. Why were they such a powerful team? And there was this sense of, we've always got to hold the All Blacks story up and achieve against that. And so always do better. And what Josh has said there is exactly right. And it's something that we are embedding slowly, because you never embed anything in social care immediately overnight. But very much it's, come into social care, come to our care homes and live the story of this care home, live the story of these residents, and aspire to our values, which are, one of them is we've always got to do better. Thankfully, we have a regulator that demands that, and CQC are useful in that respect. But they never, good today is not good tomorrow. You've always got to keep getting better. So, I absolutely echo what Joshua has said in terms of getting belonging, getting the story, which is unique to each care home. And I think, Josh, that is part of the challenge that we face. If I went out and got a job at McDonald's or Pizza Express, or pick another one, Wok Thai, which is a brilliant restaurant in Ringwood, by the way. If you've never been, highly recommend it. Our office is down below it. Sorry, our office is above it. It's below our office. So highly recommended. Wok Thai in Ringwood. There we are. Recommendation for the day. But you are going to have a different sense of belonging for each of those organizations, and your buy-in to that branding is going to be different. Whereas when you work in social care, it's we don't have a brand. We don't have a social care brand. They do in the NHS. We don't in social care, or maybe we started one, but it's not a particularly great one. We work in social care. What is that? Domiciliary care, care homes. It's too broad. And then you break it down even further and say, well, I now work for HC1 or Barchester, or in our case with Blackadder, we don't market as a group. We've got 6 care homes, Fieldhouse, Parkhouse, Northwich. It's what makes that individual care home unique. So I think you're right. We've got a lot of marketing to do, but we're starting from a very fragmented base, and how we position that fragmented base for when someone comes to join us is frankly a lot of hard work. On the marketing side, we spend an awful lot of time and an awful lot of money, and I don't know which 50% of it is being well spent on marketing our care homes. And as much of it is towards the residents as it is the relatives and the staff members. We run, our Facebook page is probably one of our greatest recruiting tools. It's the content on there is of the residents and it's for the relatives, but we know that our staff members look at it, our prospective staff members look at it, and they go, that is the sort of care home that I want to be involved in. So it's a really big marketing piece. And I completely echo what Josh has said about belonging, but building that story up is really difficult, because you've also got to buy in at the manager level as well and get the values aligned there. Alpesh, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely agree with everything that Josh said there. But I see it from a different point of view in that so I wouldn't really understand how to tell the story. So how does that come across to the end user? How do you actually tell your story of what work you're doing, what great things you're doing in your home and things like that? But I do see it as trying to recruit using that as your main tool is sort of outside of the box thinking now. So there was the tried and trusted methods of job boards, Indeed, Reed, and all of these sort of places that I think have kind of, there's still some use to it, but I think we're moving away from that a little bit now. And so things like telling your story through a social media advertising campaign or something like that is kind of coming into the new way of trying to grab the attention of the staff that you want to try and bring into your home now. There are other things as well, sort of company perks or employee perks and other bits and pieces, which sort of rounds off the whole thing. But yeah, I completely agree. I just see it from a different angle, but I completely agree with everything that Josh said. Yeah.
So the bringing up of job boards is an interesting point. I guess that's again that's the kind of the tried and tested model, if you like, and it will be interesting to hear other people's views on this. But the more I hear about the traditional job board channels, if you like, the less impressed people seem to be with them. Maybe I've had a skewed view of that, but I think that's something that seems to be a concept or an anecdote that's shared with me relatively frequently. Josh, what are the key differences between job board recruitment and social media recruitment strategies, if you like?
Yes, question I get asked every single day, and which one should be used. Simple answer I always give the client is, especially in a time right now where recruitment is so difficult across the sector, it's not a case of identifying. Yes, it's the easy thing for directors to identify which one gives me the most return, right? The highest ROI. And I get that, I understand that. But what you need to be understanding is that we're dealing with people in a sector where they don't have to have necessary experience to become a carer or to work in a care home. You can train them, you can educate them on that role. So you're appealing to everyone within that local area to come work for you. So what you need to understand is those people could be anywhere. Yes, social media is an amazing tool for that, because you can target everyone in the local area very specifically on age, gender, interest, behavioral attributes, all these things. And job boards, you're displaying the positions that you have available, both in which are very different. One's a job board, one's a marketing channel. So to compare the two, we shouldn't be doing that. What we should be doing is, how do we utilize both these tools to our advantage, right? And if that means fluctuation in the budget, accordingly throughout the year, then so be it. What we tend to find is people go, well, I know job boards, so I'll stick as much as I can on a job board, so I appear at the very top. So for job boards, people watching this, job boards, it's very simple. You're trying to outbid your competitor in your local area for that position. You spend the most money, you're going to appear at the top. It's typically as simple as that, really. Yes, you could argue, what's your pay rates, what's your benefits, what's your requirements, and how easy is it to actually apply for this position? Do you send them to a website where they have to fill out a form, or can they submit their CV straight away, or can they call up straight away? So you look at how can you make it easier for the applicant. That's one aspect of it. But a job board is, like I said, you're just trying to outbid your competitor. So there's no storytelling there. So for me, what I'm saying to clients now in this time period right now is that you have to utilize both. It's look, if you're sat here watching this and you're spending $1,000+ per month on a job board, you're not getting anything back. First thing I'd be asking you to do is speak to your Indeed contact and say, well, what is the budget I need to be spending to get a result here, and what can you offer to me to do this? Because I've spent a few £1,000s now and not had anything back. It's not working for me. So you put the pressure back onto them and see what they can do for you. But that's the difference between a job board and social media, is that you've got a lot more flexibility in the way that you present yourself through social. One, it's a lot less competitive. And two, what you're doing is you're targeting everyone in the local area. That might be people looking for a job, might be a family member that knows of someone looking for a job. It might be a friend of a friend. It could be anyone in the local area. And the beautiful thing is you can target specific age groups as well, and genders. So if you predominantly want females of a certain age, then you have the ability to do that, which is uncalled of in other areas of marketing and displaying your recruitment adverts. You can't do that anywhere else. So for me right now, job boards is a necessity. You have to have it. You have to have a job board advert out there. But what's your budget going to be? What works for you? So what I'm saying to clients is, figure out a marketing budget that you can apply to this, a recruitment budget that you can apply that allows you to be on multiple platforms, but then manage that budget. Because what we tend to see is clients go, well, we'll spend a couple of grand a month and we'll stick it all into Facebook, and we'll stick it all into job boards, and we'll see what happens. Right? That's the biggest mistake, because you've got no control now. So you need to be analyzing this every day. If you don't have the time to do that, there's your problem. So you don't have the time to do it. So how do you fix that problem first before you try and solve the next problem on the line? So I guess the reason for the sector to be talking about this right now is it probably wasn't spoken about 10 years ago, because I don't think recruitment for care homes and the care sector was too much of a problem. If you stick an advert out, you get a lot of interest back. Right now, it's because of COVID, because of all the healthcare system where it is and what's going on, what's been spoken about. Maybe there's a bit of a few people being too scared to come into the sector, potentially unsure what it is. What does it entail? Why are we seeing loads of care positions being advertised? What tends to be going wrong? Why is it so desperate right now? So we need to educate people. We need to educate people on what it is they're applying for. So you can't do that through a job board. You can't. You just display your advert and that's it. You hope for the best. So this is why, for me, job boards at the moment is on a decline. But right now, in this moment in time, we still need to utilize the job board, because it's one of those tools that is going to attract candidates. And right now, we need to attract candidates. So,
number one priority, right? So I guess, Michael, I'd be interested to hear your view on this. So what would you say is and isn't working in social care recruitment at the moment to combat the recruitment crisis?
So I've got to look at this from our perspective, which is we have roughly 260 employees across our group. And I think we've got somewhere between 35 and 40 roles outstanding, which is across all functions. there's an increased demand for carers at the moment because we seem to be taking more one-to-one care on. So that's actually a disproportionate element of that. We actually get enough funding to fund that through agency. So a manageable amount of that is agency. So that's our starting point. What's working? We were lucky, I guess, in that we had a relatively well thought through Brexit contingency plan. So when COVID hit, we implemented that. Again, a lucky decision. As a result, we sought a tier 2 visa license earlier than most care operators. So when we hit, I think, July 21, we were already in place and we were already looking to bring staff over. And we have been lucky, again, in that the people that we've brought over we've not only brought over some amazing nurses and senior carers, but we've also brought over some senior carers who were nurses, have gone and got their NMC pin and are now nurses in our organization. So what works? Luck works. Be lucky. Just be as lucky as you can. Our recruitment process is there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. Our operations director, my sister, probably spends 25% of her working time either on Facebook or Indeed marketing and pushing job adverts out and talking to people through that. The managers are told that if a CV comes in or there's a Facebook application, they've got 2 hours to respond in. They have to have that immediacy of response. Out of hours, my sister deals with it, the joys of being an operations director. And then it's get them in as quickly as possible, which means a very streamlined process. Come on in, fill in the form. Can you do this online values recruitment tool? We use Judgment Index, which is, again, another plug, great tool, really valuable, gives you some really useful interview questions as well as decent little psychometric to help identify strengths and weaknesses of the people you're recruiting. And then, DBS, references, and you need to be cute. You need to think, okay, well, I've got 2 weeks. Okay, tell you what, do your training while do your e-learning training while you wait. Can I get them in to do shadow shifts over that 2-week period? Is there anything that they can be doing that is valuable to the business during that period? But as we've been discussing, recruitment is one part of this. You've got to be thinking about long-term retention. And in terms of retention and making that work, it's all about individual staff development and getting them to buy into this sense of culture and belonging. I think, Josh, we now exist in a world where we are recruiting. Social care has always recruited from 2 separate pools of people. You've got the 16 to early 20s, and then you've got the 40 to maybe 55 category. Every single one of those now is digitally native to some extent, but certainly the younger cohort. So in terms of they want to go and find a job, they'll look on Facebook, they'll look on LinkedIn, they'll look on Indeed, they'll look everywhere. And so sometimes, yes, it's about throw as much mud at the wall as you possibly can, but it's also about tying that into this message, this marketing message from your social media and going, look, if you want to find out more about us, here's the Facebook line, or it's on Facebook. Come and see what we do, because we've got videos, we've got photos, we've got someone, our operations director, on at least weekly, if not daily basis, putting content out there that speaks to the story, speaks to the sense of what we've done. So, for example, one of our care homes, Fieldhouse, recently won an award for palliative care. Of course, that went up. Of course, we sent a huge box of sweets to the staff to get them, to celebrate that and to say thank you. But that's a huge thing in terms of our story at Fieldhouse. This is what we're good at, and this is what this is the sense of belonging that we want our staff to have, and that works. It doesn't work where you don't have it, where you don't have that value-led recruitment and retention process, which has to be driven from the top down, but also from the bottom up, where you've got the directors and the managers and the deputies saying, these are the values that we hold, this is what we want to achieve, but then the entire team pushing back all the way back up the chain, saying, no, these are the values that we want to achieve and that we're going to hold ourselves to. And when you get that, you get better retention, better engagement. And that sort of solves itself, because then the social media becomes the staff promoting the service, promoting the job roles, and every share then goes to all of their friends.
Alpesh, given what's been said, is that consistent with your experience and what you're seeing as well?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty consistent, to be fair. What I think is not working is it's not the attracting of staff. I touched on it earlier. It's the time it takes from offering a job to a candidate and them actually starting with you. Yeah, I think that really does hinder a home, or in the care sector in general, particularly around. Again, I mentioned it before, times taken to get a DBS for someone that's new into the sector who haven't got a transferable one or cannot work under a risk assessment or something like that. From our experience, we've had DBSs come back in days, and then sometimes it's taken 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And in that time, if you are out of a job and are wanting to start this role because you need to pay your bills, you can't wait 6 to 8 weeks. So they find something else and they go, and there's no hard feelings. I understand that. If I was in their situation, I would do the same. So I think that's what sometimes strangles us. It's those little processes in between. It's not necessarily the attracting and how do you attract the staff, or how do you onboard them or retain them. It's the processes in between as to how you get them in quickly, safely and understandably so, but get them in quickly. Because if you have 10 vacancies in your home, you have a need to fill them now, not in 8 weeks' time. In 8 weeks' time, that might be 20. You have a need right now. So I think from my experiences, it's the small little bits in between is what's strangling it, not the actual attraction of staff. You can find there are different avenues in order to do that. And you get enough applicants coming through. Michael touched on it right at the beginning. This actually is, and I agree completely, over the last sort of few years, I find it's actually, we're getting more applicants coming through now than we did in the previous 6 months. I couldn't put my finger on it until Michael actually mentioned it. So I kind of grasping it now. But yeah, we are seeing a lot more applicants come through now than we are in the last 6 months. I'm not saying that they're all great, and they might, be doing it just because they have to tick some boxes, which we won't go into. But at least they're coming through. And when they're coming through, you give yourself a chance to actually sell your business and your proposition to them. So I think that the parts that are not working is those little processes in between, basically. Don't ask me what is working, because I haven't got the answer for that yet, because I've got a lot of vacancies to fill still.
Joshua, is your experience with your client base? Do you see that as well? The kind of the almost like the sub processes of the recruitment process. Are you seeing lots of, I guess, opportunity in there where people maybe they haven't set up the processes in a way where I guess they can expedite them as quickly as possible to try and narrow that opportunity of I guess candidate fallout from great candidate through great interview through to actually getting them started on the day?
100%. I mean, this has actually been our biggest challenge. The last 3 years, more evidently than when I first started. I don't think there was necessarily too much of an issue when I first started doing this for clients to convert the candidates that we sent them or they generated online. What we're actually spending a large portion of our time now when we're account managing our clients is giving them ideas, educating them on ways to process applicants quicker, how to onboard them quicker, how to limit the amount of hurdles that you're putting in their way. But also the bigger one here, which is controversial because it always raises a few eyebrows when I say this, but you have to look at how you're internally onboarding candidates as well. Like, for example, it used to be in the past that directors and recruiters could, I guess, listen to the applicants and listen to them sell themselves to become a carer. But now the clients are having to sell the positions to these carers, like why they should come and work for you. And that's difficult for a lot of directors and recruiters because they're not used to that. They're thinking, well, if you've applied for a job with me and I'm having to call you 3 to 5 times before you even answer, or you cancelled your first interview and now Fortunately, this is where the sector is right now. That's the reality of where it is. And the clients that are doing significantly well right now are the ones that are able to sell the position very well in terms of, this is why you need to come work for us. This is what you're going to be doing. It'd be great for you to come and meet the team and sit down, have a coffee, and we'll have an interview together. Don't worry about the application form for now. We'll do all that once we've met you. Right. And it's almost going back in time a little bit and having that face-to-face interview and speaking to this person as a person, why you want them to come work for you, and also, are they right for you? Of course, you're always going to make a decision, right? You're never going to jeopardize the quality of care that you have in your care home or within care sector. You'll never take on that person if you don't feel safe about that person. But the parts before that, those parts where you're having to chase, you're having to onboard, you're having to interview, the clients that are doing really well right now, the ones that are looking at that and going, we have to change something here. Something's not right. We're getting hundreds of applicants, and as the two gents have said here, the quality is not always there. Of course it's not, but you're getting hundreds of applicants. But out of those, how can you safely say that you are picking up the phone 15, 20 times sometimes, in some cases, rearranging their interview, having them come in? Are you asking for application forms up front? Are you asking to go to a website where they've got to fill out a huge form, do all DBS checks before they even get to the interview stage? So you've got to really start evaluating how you attracting people to your business right now, and what are you doing different to everyone else? Because the easy thing is to do, don't get me wrong, is to stick an advert out, fill out the application form. When you fill that in, then we'll speak to you. Right? That's an easy part because there's a lot less manual intensive jobs there. But actually, like Michael said, if you get an application on Facebook, 2 hours, right? You don't pick up that phone in 2 hours and speak to that person who was literally just applied for that position, who's interested, literally sat on their phone, filling it out. You're not picking it up in 2 hours. There's probably another company that have already picked it up and contacted them, right? So what are you doing differently internally to get around this issue right now? And that's where we're spending the majority of our time with clients, because rightly said, inquiries, there's a lot of them out there. Candidates, that they're coming through thick and thin. But what we need to be doing is focusing on how you actually processing them. Like, what does your process look like? And what you tend to find is they don't have a process. Oh, we'll contact them 2 or 3 times and then text them an email. If they don't get back to us, Josh, we're not interested. Right. Well, I'll tell you what, the competitor down the road, they'll be picking up that phone 15, 20 times in an email, text messages, checking in once in a while for up to 12 months, GDPR law in the UK. And just checking to see if they're still interested, maybe sharing some information with them about a new position that's opened up, or a job fair that's coming up. What are you actually doing internally to make sure your process is the best it can be? So yeah, that is the biggest challenge right now.
There's a lot to unpack there. That's good. Great insight to share. Probably do a whole conversation just taking a point as well. Maybe we'll do that another day. But I guess we've gone through some of the realities. We've been talking about some of the sets of circumstances. We've looked at kind of the scenario from different angles, which I think has been really helpful. I'd be interested to hear some predictions for the future around social care recruitment. So Alpesh, if you want to go first, give me your view on how do you see all of this playing out?
Oh, there's the $1 million question there. Honest answer, I'm not entirely sure, but I think as this discussion has shown, I think we have to definitely look at alternative methods than just what's worked in the past and the tried and trusted methods. I think the biggest difference as to why the sector is struggling to recruit now as opposed to previous is because it feels like almost every sector, every industry is trying to recruit someone at the moment. So you're not fighting against other care homes to recruit people. You're fighting against, the Tesco down the road and the restaurant up the road this side and all of that. But predictions for social care recruitment, I think outside of the box, I'll give you an example from, I attended a MCare event, which is East Midlands Care Association in Leicester a few weeks ago. And someone that was presenting there was from the Prince's Trust. And they have a whole social care department that's been put in place to get 16 to 24-year-olds into the care sector. And it's about finding companies within areas where these 16, 24-year-olds have signed up with the Prince's Trust and trying to then do a tie-up with them. So we've got a call with them in a couple of weeks' time. And, these are kids that need a chance in work, could potentially be your next generation of carers for the next 30, 40 years, not actually had jobs before, and the Prince's Trust themselves help to gear them up into working life. Basically, they give them or train them and give them the skills, etc., as well as you do as a company. So it's those kind of tie-ups and links and connections. I thought it might be the next evolutionary path, as well as social media, but I'm trying not to touch on that because Josh is the expert. But I think it's those kind of things as well that will move the recruitment into the future, and what could be around the corner.
And Michael, your view on the future, what's your perspective on how you see things playing out?
I don't, well, I'm going to start by saying, well, what's the future of social care? Because I think that is actually fundamentally uncertain right now. We speak regularly to local authorities, and our CEO speaks at a relatively national level about what is going on. And I think we are going to see that social care is going to sort of split even further into the at-home or community care environment and the complex care environment, which will be care homes. I think that the residential sector, as it currently exists for elderly care, will cease to be, or if it is still there, it will be privately funded. So our business model is to play very much in the complex elderly care space. And so our future is very much around highly skilled, highly talented individuals working within that space. It will still be social care, there will still be pressure on wages. But I think our future is very much around introducing this sector of social care and telling our story of social care as a very complex, technical, but rewarding environment to work in. And we see more and more people coming through. We are requiring people to do NVQ 2s, 3s. We're pushing NVQ 5s. We're getting the senior carers to start looking at doing their CHAPS qualifications as well, to be medically trained, or certainly medicines trained, to support the nurses where we have them. So I think we will see social care itself evolve, and the recruitment alongside it will evolve, will have to evolve with it. And in our particular case, it's going to be telling our story more and better and continuing to evolve that.
Great, thank you for that. Really appreciate it. And one last point, a reminder on the name of the book that you mentioned earlier on, because that sounded like something I will certainly be ordering from Amazon, and it sounds like a recommendation for others to also look at that.
There are two, because the point that I was going to make earlier is around coaching. So the other thing that is working well for us is embedding a coaching culture in our organization. That's really tough, by the way. But there is a brilliant book out called The Answer is the Question, by a firm local to us called Notion. They're based in Leamington Spa. The Answer is the Question. It's out on Amazon released this week. Do read it. It's a really good introduction to coaching and getting coaching embedded in organizations. The other book that I mentioned is Belonging by Owen Eastwood. Really, it's quite thin, and it's in lovely bite-sized chapters. There's about 60 chapters in it, but maybe about 120 pages. So nice and accessible.
A nice, easy read. That sounds great. So, lastly, Josh, to round things up, obviously your field of expertise is very much around social media, specifically helping care organizations to be able to drive their organizations. Talk me through your view around how social media can help take care organizations to that next level.
Okay, so one of the biggest things, I think, misconceptions with social media is that anyone can do it first and foremost. I've been working in social media and paid advertising now for a good 8 years, degree in marketing. Did I learn anything in my degree with paid ads? No, it was maybe touched on slightly. Oh, you can run a paid ad. That was about it. So for 8 years, I've been educating myself and my team on making sure we're at the top of our game and understanding every single aspect of the more intricate parts of Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and TikTok and Twitter paid advertising, like to a point where we've spent millions, not of their own money. I wouldn't be sat here today if it was millions of my own money, but it's millions of our clients' money over the 8-year period on scaling businesses and brands to a point where they understand every penny they spend, what they get out of it. That's the most important thing, especially in this sector where, you know, a lot of companies and brands still have yet to utilize social media or don't have a budget for marketing or recruitment and not too sure how to scale it, or do I stick to £1,500 a month? Is that enough money? You have to understand first and foremost what you're getting back in return with every penny you spend. So for me, that misconception that everyone can run social media campaign is pretty much because of these things. Everyone's got a Facebook profile. Everyone's young that comes out of university and says that I can run a Facebook page for you. Another big error in the sector is when a director believes, oh, you seem to be young, you could probably do Facebook, let's give you a go on that. To a point where even some directors, as I heard Michael, I think it's your sister that's running up saying that she's good or bad at what she does. But what happens is that they fall into this area of that's what Facebook is and that's what it gives in return, to never being able to educate and learn what more there is to it as a tool. And you know, you get into real detail when you start to understand the algorithm and testing different variables such as creatives to target audiences to data that you send to and from your website, and really starting to understand what actually gets your local audience engaged, because what works for Michael might not work for Alpesh. And that's a big thing as well, is that a lot of clients will come to us and say, well, give us a case study or give us some results that you've achieved in a client in this sector. So absolutely, happily do that for you. But you have to understand that your area is completely different. Your brand is different. Your message is different. So for you to instantly compare yourself to what we're getting for this brand that spent, you know, last 4 or 5 years developing their brand within that period and spent X amount of money is not where you want to start. Social media works for everyone. It will work for everyone. It does work for every company. It works for ourselves. We use it. We do this every day for ourselves. It's just, how do you get it to work to your benefit? And if you're sat here watching this and you're thinking, oh, I spend £500 to £1,000, or I spend quite a lot of money on Facebook and Instagram and paid ads and managing the content and creating the content, but I don't know what I get back in return. If you can't tell me that answer and you haven't got a clear-cut answer on what you're getting out of this in terms of financials, then you're not doing it correctly. And you've actually fallen into that trap where you've gone into this horrible pattern where we need a Facebook advert out there. We'll stick one out, you know, got a job we need to fulfill, just put it out there. And that's never been done on radio or TV before. There's a lot of planning with how do you come across on radio, what do you say, how long is it there for, what channels do you go on, TV, you know, which station do you know, which channel are you on and for how long are you on it, and what time of the day you're going to be there, how do we budget for this, how much money do we spend on it. Social media is so easy to do. You just click a button and you think, okay, well, that's what Facebook and Instagram is. So for companies and yourselves watching this today, I'd say you need to speak to someone that truly does understand it. Even if you believe you're doing it, have that conversation and have that company or that agency or ourselves or a meta business partner, as we call them. That's a real key thing you've got to look for in an individual that's going to be running your campaigns, that they have that recognition for being able to manage high paid campaigns across social media and being able to return that to the client in terms of what they get back. So I'd say you need to find a professional that truly understands it. Do your research on that individual, that company, make sure they've got the credentials to be able to manage it for you. Have the conversation, find out what it is they would do differently, how they would do it. Ask for results, yeah, of course, but don't take it as that's what you're going to get. Take it as, oh, okay, they've done this before, they've done it with someone else, they've proven it, they've helped them grow, great, okay, well, maybe that's what we need to do now, right? So I just wanted to mention that because there's a big misconception in the social sector. Look, there's a lot of bad agencies out there as well that say they can run social media campaigns. This is why you doing your research on them, what they've done previously, have these conversations like this, do your research, listen to them, and trial it. You know, in most cases, don't be afraid to trial new things as well. And but that's what I'd like to say is that's a big thing. Make sure you do your research.
Important last point there, and a great summary of the proposition. So, gentlemen, recruitment's going to be an important topic of conversation for the social care world into perpetuity, probably. But it's great to be able to have this conversation at the moment, whilst the landscape itself seems to be changing so rapidly. So thank you very much all for your time today. It's been great, and looking forward to hearing more feedback from CLN members to hear what they thought about today's conversation. But as I say, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.